on a tombstone, at least a portion of it, is where someone had, by their instruction prior to death, had these words inscribed. Remember, friend, as you pass by, as you are now, so once was I. As I am now, you soon will be. So prepare to die and follow me. But someone had come along and written underneath those words, to follow you, I'm not content until I know which way you went. Again, the moral has to be careful whom you're following. Know where you're going. You see, there is a truth that very, very few things in life will influence us as much as the people that we spend our time with, that we associate with, and that we choose to follow. Don't you think we all follow people? I think we all will admit that we are influenced by people that we associate with. Now, I know that all of us would say, well, no, nobody's going to tell me what to do with my life, and nobody's going to have total control over what I do or say. And I'm not meaning to even imply that. But we are all influenced. Look at the scriptures that Bill Wynn read for us a while ago, and he very effectively and accurately pointed out the contrast. In the first scripture, the Apostle Paul said, you can follow me, and you'll be safe in that, because I'm following Christ. And you know that'll be a good course to follow. But then by contrast, the Apostle Paul, just shortly after that in that same epistle, said to the Corinthians, watch out, because evil companions, evil people will ruin and corrupt the very best of morals in a period of time. You see, that's why we hear things like, you're known by the company you keep, or things like, if you run with wolves, you'll learn to howl. One of the heart-to-heart messages that I did for radio back some time ago was one in which I cited a story that I had read about some dogs that had been trained as sheep dogs. But in one night, these dogs had killed 123 sheep. Obviously, a very strange thing for them to do when they had all been such good sheep dogs. But when little investigation was done, they found out that one dog had been brought into this group of dogs. And this dog that was brought in had a history of being a killer dog. And when that killer dog got into the pack and started a kill, and the others got the taste of blood, they joined in. We need to understand that we are in risk or at risk of being influenced to do evil by evil people. And conversely, and more positively, we have the opportunity to be influenced for good by those who are good. Join me now as we look at Proverbs, continuing our study of selected passages in this book, of some things that Solomon wrote about our companions and the influence they have upon us. In chapter 1, beginning at verse 10, my son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. If they say, come with us, let us lay wait for blood, let us lurk privily for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them up alive as the grave, and whole as those that go down into the pit. We shall find all precious substance. We shall fill our houses with spoil. Cast in thy lot among us. Let us all have one purse. My son, walk not thou in the way with them. Refrain thy foot from their path. For their feet run to evil and make haste to shed blood. You see, the warning that Solomon gave was that there are those who will tempt you, they'll entice you, they'll try to persuade you to join them, but their hearts are set on doing things that are evil, stealing from somebody, doing violence to someone. They will not walk in the way that is right. Their feet are going to be found walking in the ways that are evil, and you need to say, no, I'm not going to be a part of that. Now look at chapter 2. Chapter 2, verse 11. Discretion shall preserve thee, understanding shall keep thee, to deliver thee from the way of the evil man, from the man that speaketh froward things, who leave the paths of uprightness to walk in the ways of darkness, who rejoice to do evil and delight in the frowardness of the wicked, whose ways are crooked and they froward in their paths, to deliver thee from the strange woman, even from the stranger which flattereth with her words, which forsaketh the guide of her youth and forgetteth the covenant of her God. I want you to notice in verses 17 and 13 the turnaround in people's lives. In verse 17, in reference to the woman who turns from the guidance that she was given as a girl, and she forgets the covenant of her God, obviously to serve herself and Satan. Back at verse 13, he referred to those who leave the paths of uprightness. Now, you don't leave something that you're not already in. So they were in the path of uprightness, but they leave that path to walk in the way of darkness. I've seen it happen hundreds of times. Somebody brought up to love God, somebody taught about the Lord, somebody who's going to church, and all of a sudden, it seems, no, it's really not all of a sudden, but over a period of time, there is a change that comes about, and it's just noticed all of a sudden by most of us, how that person will turn away and no longer walk in the ways that are right and the ways that he or she was taught. How does all of that happen? By the influence of evil people, by listening to that which is evil. Let me remind you, Satan is alive and well. Satan is active. He's active today influencing you and me to do evil, but how does he do that? As I've said before, he doesn't come through this, into this church building and down this aisle and stand up on the pulpit and say, "Hi, I'm Satan. Can I take you to hell?" He wouldn't do that. Oh, he's more subtle. He's wiser than that. He's craftier than that. He'll use one of your friends. He'll use that television in your home. He'll use the stereo. He'll use a book. He'll use a magazine. He'll use anybody he can use to influence you to do evil. But here Solomon says the antidote to all of that, back in verse 11, is discretion. You've got to learn to be discreet. You have to learn to make choices and understand the results and the consequences of those choices. Look at chapter 13 now of Proverbs. Chapter 13, and read just one verse from this chapter with me. Chapter 13, verse 20. He that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed. The man that walks with wise men is going to be a wise man, And does it not stand to reason that you could change that, not doing any harm to the text whatsoever, by saying, he that walks with a righteous person will learn to be righteous? Plato said, the wise man will ever want to be with someone better than himself. You know, there's a principle in sports that applies to that. Hubert Powell and Johnny Turner and Chris Robertson and I play a lot of racquetball together. And just the other night, Chris and I were talking about this principle in sports, that oftentimes you don't get any better until you play someone who's a lot better. And you challenge yourself to raise your game to another level. And you want to play with people that challenge you. And that principle is true in life. That if you spend all your time with people who are morally degenerate, you're not going to have much of a challenge facing you to be a more spiritual person. Now, you may reason, well, I'm trying to help them. And that would be a noble and justifiable reason to spend some time with people who are not morally right or spiritually right. But notice that I said if you spend all your time with those people. And you do need to be careful that you examine who's wielding the strongest influence. And it may be that in association with those that are not spiritually minded people, you're the one that is influenced the most and become less spiritually minded. But there's an influence there that needs to be considered. And when you will choose to spend time with good people, people that are going to help you be a Christian, you're going to benefit from that. And conversely, if you choose to spend all your time with people that have no interest in being Christians, then you're going to be influenced by that. In time, it just happens. Look at chapter 22. Proverbs chapter 22. We'll look at just this one and one more text, and then I want to make some applications of this. Proverbs 22, verse 24. Make no friendship with an angry man, and with a furious man thou shalt not go, lest thou learn his ways and get a snare to thy soul. Now, is it possible then to be influenced by others? Of course it is. This proves it. Solomon, with the wisdom that God gave him, said, you hang out with a guy who is always mad, always fierce, you'll learn his ways. Would it not stand to reason then you hang with somebody who is evil in any sort of way? Spend your time with such a person, you'll learn his ways. And then one final one, Proverbs 24, verse 1. Proverbs 24, verse 1. Be not thou envious against evil men. That is, don't be jealous of people that are evil, neither desire to be with them. One of the things that just really puzzles me is how, with young people especially, it seems there is such strong pull to be with the bad crowd. So cool to hang out with the bad dudes. For what reason? Young people, answer that. For what reason? Be honest. I don't even have to provide the answer because you know the answer. What reason do you have? What's your reason? I want to suggest just 3 practical things, 2 of them to all of us, 1 of them especially to young people. Let me give that one to the young people first. Young people, this that we're talking about this morning is a reminder to you of why your parents are so nosy about your friends. And I know that you think they're nosy. But you see, your mom and your dad, because they have lived a little bit longer, they've been down a few roads that you haven't been down yet, and they can see some things that you can't see. And they'll be very, very picky about who they want you spending your time with, because they can see some dangers that you don't see. And instead of you resenting that idea or just resenting their suggestions and their comments, first of all, are you listening, young man, young woman? I will tell you, first of all, the thing you ought to do is just give thanks to God that you have a mom and dad that cares about what happens to you, and therefore they care about who you hang out with. And then secondly, even though it may not make a whole lot of sense to you all the time, at least respect their advice and their criticism even. Because God has given them authority over you. And to us all of us need to choose to be associated or choose friends that will help us to be the right kind of people. Now I realize, obviously I would realize this, you do and I do, we all realize it, that there are moments in life, say at the workplace, that you don't get to choose who you spend your time with. You don't get to choose who you sit next to in class at school. But all of us have those moments that we get to choose who our associates are, who we choose as friends. Choose those people that will help you to be a Christian. And young people, be an adult in that regard. I read the other day about a kid, 12 years old, who was out playing some basketball with some of his neighborhood buddies. And the next door neighbor was out working in his flower bed. And these buddies of this kid started cussing and saying a lot of profane things. And the neighbor heard it, and the neighbor noticed all of a sudden the ball game ended and all the guys left. And when they all left, that 12-year-old boy went next door and apologized to his neighbor. He said, "I'm sorry you had to hear that." And he said, "And they won't be coming back to play ball at my house." Now that's a man. He may just be 12 years old, but that's a man. And when his daddy found it out from the next door neighbor, the kid didn't even tell his daddy, that next door neighbor said, "I want you to know how impressed I was with that. So he went to his boy and he said, "Son, I'm just so proud of you." And he said, "No, Dad, ain't no big deal." He said, "That's just not the kind of guys I want to be hanging with, because I don't want to learn to talk like that myself." Now there's a man. And the final thing that is a pretty obvious spin-off of all of this is this final suggestion. If you realize that you're choosing to spend some time with somebody that's not helping you to be a Christian and that's making it hard for you to do what's right, then have the courage to make the break from that person. Just have the courage. You be a man about it. And just choose to go in another direction and spend your time hanging out with other people that are going to help you be a Christian. So what about your companions then? Are they helping you to be a better person? Are you helping them to be a better person? You take a good long look at that. Open your songbooks, please, to the number that has been announced, and as we stand in a moment to sing this song.
Hear me when I call, O God, my righteousness. Unto thee I come in weakness and distress. Hold my trembling hand, lest helpless I should fall.
Hello, my name is Cliff Goodwin, and I'm with the Ironton Church of Christ.
Next, dimmed button. Volume 100. Airplay. Page 2 of 3. Next, dim. Next, volume. Airplay. Page 2 of 3. Page 1 of 3. Selected. Screen.